On this episode of China Uncensored, our 1-year anniversary! Yeah! Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. It's our paper anniversary. 1 year ago today, I posted the very first episode of China Uncensored on the NTD-TV YouTube channel. The rivers are running red. For some reason, the rivers around the Chinese megacity Chongqing turned blood red. That's a good sign, especially since it happened not too long after the downfall of Bo Xilai, the city's party secretary, and that, as we all knew back then, a few months later the world was definitely going to end on December 21st. It did happen a few months before the 16,000 dead pigs showed up in a river outside of Shanghai, but I'm pretty sure those were unrelated. But so anyways, I have a special treat for you today. I'm going to show you one of the original pilots for China Uncensored, back when I was calling it China Unscripted. Now, originally, I didn't want the show to be entertaining at all. I wanted to make a serious, hard-hitting show about Chinese politics. It sucked pretty bad. So then I made the pilot I'm about to show you. This was my first attempt at trying to be funny. I don't think I ever figured it out. So this is pretty awful and embarrassing. There were some basic things I didn't understand, like you should sit up straight in front of a camera. But just in case you don't make it through this, I wanted to thank you all for the support you've given me this past year. The show has grown so much, and it's been a blast making it and hearing from everyone who watches the show. I think this coming year will bring some pretty good things as well. So here it is, the pilot for China Uncensored. And I won't blame you for skipping to the end. Welcome to this week's show. I'm Chris Chappell, and this is China Unscripted. I'm scripted, China isn't. Corruption takes many forms. It's not always a high-profile official embezzling construction funds or a New York hot dog vendor charging tourists $5 a dog. No, sometimes it's a little subtler. We first heard about this story on China's state-run CCTV. In the report, a man called Mr. Wang was suffering from prostate problems. He went to a reputable hospital in the Jiangxi province and spent a small fortune on treatment, but wasn't cured. A reporter heard about Mr. Wang's story and decided to do what any of us would do in the same situation: defraud several of China's biggest hospitals. First, he went to a state-certified hospital in Beijing, got a full physical exam, and walked away with a clean bill of health. Then he went to Shijiazhuang City, it's pretty close to Beijing, to the Boda Hospital. Their website says it's one of the top hospitals for male disorders. It's a big place, very luxurious. And so in the urine test, he gave them green tea. And when the results came back, it turns out he was pretty sick. The doctors told him he had a lot of problems with his prostate, and a week of treatment would be about $100. But I mean, that's just one hospital. The next one he went to, the Tianqiao Hospital in Shenyang, when they got a little jar of green tea, they said his prostate was calcified and wanted to cut out a piece of it for $800. But then he went to a really good hospital. I mean, this is the real deal, the Jiulong Male Hospital in Chongqing City. It's one of the very best in China, very high tech. The website says they have, this is just a direct translation, a nuclear energy photon treatment. And that's just what they wanted to use on him in a 7-day treatment that would cost over $1,000. I always thought green tea was supposed to be good for you. The story broke and the Weibo boards were a frenzy, calling out on the corruption in the hospitals throughout China. One commenter, going by the screen name Fei Longli Wei, said, "If you're not sick, then go to the hospital. You'll get sick." A multi-million-dollar blockbuster is getting some major attention in Chinese press, but it's probably not a movie you've ever heard of. It's called Chinese Railways, a 5-minute promotional video for Chinese railways. In this promo by the Ministry of Railways, you can see such exciting footage as trains running. It cost nearly $3 million. Netizens have marveled at how it possibly could have cost so much. That's probably why authorities began a corruption investigation. In the end, they found that the Deputy General Secretary of the Ministry of Railways Literature and Arts Department, Chen Yihan, was a little richer than she should have been. Technically a low-ranking official, she had somehow amassed incredible wealth. Authorities confiscated $1.5 million and 9 property ownership certificates. The Metropolitan Times has reported on a rather unusual service being offered by a temple in China. Families grieving the loss of a loved one can now find comfort at the Yuantong Temple in the Yunnan province. For a nominal fee of 500 yuan, that's about $78, the temple guarantees the soul of the departed will be reborn in the U.S. Some Weibo users have joked that for 5,000 yuan, they could be reborn in outer space. But there are 2 problems with that. Problem 1, there's no air in outer space. And 2, by Chinese law, any reincarnation is technically illegal. In 2007, a ban on reincarnation was issued unless a soul got prior governmental approval. And tonight we have joining us from the newsroom, NTD China News producer Kathleen Zhang.
Hi Chris, how are you?
Now, the first thing I want to ask about is, since we just brought it up, is the reincarnation ban.
Well, the reincarnation ban actually focuses specifically on Tibetan Buddhists. They're not allowed to reincarnate without prior government approval. Well, of course, this raises questions about the Dalai Lama. And actually, the Chinese government, or Chinese officials, have described this ironically as the State Administration for Religious Affairs taking an important move to institutionalize the management of reincarnation, aka the Dalai Lama. Now, the Dalai Lama has actually responded to this. He said that he is not sure. He's going to leave clear written instructions, but he's not going to talk about this for a few years. He's like 77 now, I believe, or 76. He's not going to talk about it until he's about 90. So then they'll decide whether or not the Dalai Lama will even reincarnate at all.
That's interesting you mentioned that, because I know the Panchen Lama, basically the highest-ranking Lama after the Dalai Lama, has been missing since 1995.
Yeah, actually the Dalai Lama recognized the Panchen Lama in 1995 when the Panchen Lama was only 6 years old, but shortly afterwards he and his family were disappeared, as they now refer to it. Soon afterwards, a new Panchen Lama was established with the help of communist authorities. He's now 22. I just saw a news article about him at the end of last month, actually, where he was visiting Tibetan temples and institutions, and he was saying things like, in order to be a good Tibetan Buddhist, you must love China. And 2 days ago, a Tibetan self-immolation protester in Dharamsala died of his burns.
Okay, the question I really want to ask is, did you see that Chinese Railways video?
I watched it, I think, 3 times in a row. I have to say that I'm a little bit in love with the music they used.
So, of course, the woman responsible is now facing corruption charges, but this has been a problem that's plagued Chinese high-speed railways. The story broke almost exactly a year after the deadly Wenzhou train collision.
Right, the Wenzhou train crash happened on July 23rd of last year in Zhejiang province, so that would make it actually almost exactly a year ago. There are allegations of corruption surrounding that whole thing, which seems to be your theme today, Chris. Notably, parts of the crash were buried before any investigation started. Now, the Railways Ministry, the same group that made that promotion video, said that this was because the trains contained valuable national-level technology that could be stolen and thus must be buried. Currently, they're facing 2 lawsuits from 2 different companies saying that they stole that technology that they buried, actually. So I guess the railways in China never really recovered. The stocks never really recovered, and people don't trust them anymore. Maybe that's why they had to make that promo.
Back to the green tea story. As this reporter was going around to these different hospitals, he discovered that in Liaoning province, the No. 6 People's Hospital, fairly well respected, was renting out its male diseases department to people who don't have medical licenses. In fact, the doctor there, Dr. Huang Xiaohua, turned out to be a farmer. I guess you could call him a real pharmacist.
Yeah, I guess you could. Actually, a lot of these black clinics, as you were just talking about, the medical staff there have not actually had any real training. That's not the draw. The real draw is that they're 10 times more likely to be, they're likely to be 10 times cheaper than an actual clinic. So China is right now, a lot of the poorer families or a lot of migrant workers can't afford to go to an actual clinic, which is why these black clinics sort of have a marketplace. And that's, I guess, I was actually reading up on this, and I wanted to read this China Daily article that I found from a few years ago. I think most of the stories about this came out in 2009. 2009. And that China Daily article, I kid you not, I couldn't find it on the website. It said 404 not found, but that headline was China's black clinics help migrant workers. And that's true because they can't afford anything else. Then again, they're also exceedingly unhygienic, and misdiagnoses happen all the time. The BBC actually did an investigative report also in 2009 about black clinics.
Okay, Kathleen, we're out of time, but thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you, Chris.
Once again, my name's Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching tonight. So thank you again for the incredible year. It's been more than I ever could have imagined. Here's to another 1,000 years.